So, as I was saying earlier, either completely skipping, ignoring, avoiding, or rushing through these prescribed rituals definitely has an impact. So, a very remote impact would be the social thing of, oh, look at these people, they aren't following tradition. That's a very minimal thing. But at a personal level, at a psychological level, which is of significance because that's the one that will show up later, what happens is I have not given myself the permission or the space to confront what happened to me when death happened to the other person, to the loved one, right? So when someone died, I experienced a loss. And have I really gotten in touch with the medley of emotions that arise as a result of experiencing loss? So in the rush to be strong, or to move on, to not waste time on these things. If I just completely not engage with the process of what that ritual entails, or even engage with the process of simply weeping for my loss, then all I'm doing is I'm repressing that bunch of emotion, that energy, that bunch of emotions, to a place in my psyche, to an unconscious place in my psyche, to a dark dungeon, where it is not a dead thing that will stay quiet. It will then link up with something else and emerge in a slightly distorted form much later. So for example, some of the typical effects of unprocessed grief would be melancholy. To describe melancholy, it is more complicated than depression actually. It's almost like a persistent chronic loss of connection and pleasure with anything and everything around you, a feeling of being burdened by just being alive and having to run through the daily things of life, just not really caring about being alive or dead, kind of a numbness in anything and everything you do. Depression has a certain acuteness to it which won't let you be. Melancholy can actually, like a subclinical fever, just go on and on for the rest of your life. So that would be a horrible price to pay for not having processed your grief. Then of course depression, lack of motivation, lack of focus, lack of meaning in life, loss of purpose, all of these things can happen. While all of these are signs and symptoms of the phase of bereavement itself, unprocessed, they just get magnified. Just get very badly magnified. For a very long time, they can remain there until they are looked at. And that could be 2 months from the time, or not 2 months is still considered the grief period, but 2 years or 20 years later, they can show up. So these unprocessed repressed emotions will definitely show up at some point in time. It could be as early as 2 years from the time of death or 20 years down the lane. But what triggers these repressed emotions back up into the consciousness or conscious interactions is usually an intimate relationship, which is very interesting to me, because a lot of relationship trouble also goes back to either in one or both partners to unprocessed grief. The grief need not be about death, but death is like the biggie, that can really impact the person. Yes. Replace, the word implies that there was some consciousness about its need and then we are doing something with awareness. I don't think so. So what has unwittingly happened, or what has unwittingly got replaced with, is what I would look at as reactive behaviors. So it could be as simple as indulging in unhealthy lifestyle choices, from overeating to binge eating to smoking, alcohol, pubs and movies, indulgences that we talk about. It could be that, which are all reactive. I don't think the person is really realizing that they're doing this because they're running away from something, right? It is because they're running away from it that this is what's happening with them, right? Then there are some people who I think resort to speaking to friends who unfortunately mean well, have good intentions but not the training, and cannot handle this. It is difficult. So many a times friendships come under fire, or kind of lose the luster, because the untrained, well-intending friend ends up feeling very emotionally burdened or exhausted or depleted, not knowing how to support this process, right? Then there are things like agony aunts in newspapers or magazines where you can write to and ask. I think in the West they have different self-help groups specifically for handling bereavement, which I doubt is even remotely happening in India. At least I'm not aware of them. So I think any habit, anything that will make sure that I don't have to look at it, becomes the approach. So it's not a replacement, it's a reaction. Yeah? It's a maladaptive behavior. So yes, you're right. I think expecting a culture that's come this far to suddenly revert and embrace our existing rituals is a little far-fetched. Instead, what I would definitely suggest is something I would suggest in any case for any process, but especially death and bereavement, which is, can you pause and look at what you're feeling? Can you turn your gaze inwards? Can you focus on your inner scape rather than expending energy outwards? Can you really pause and connect with, this has happened to me, and therefore what is happening to me? Right? If you don't know how to do that, then can you seek help? Can you reach out to people who can help you do that? As opposed to friends who will say, no, you got to be strong, let's not cry, I'll take you for a movie, I'll take you for a coffee. So there is a collusion from well-meaning friends that encourages, avoiding, ignoring or suppressing whatever is going on. So can you have the pause and the presence and the courage to look at what's going on? Can you break down? Can you allow yourself to disintegrate so that you can reintegrate in a better way? Right? Because it's an event that has happened to you which is going to contribute to your enrichment if you receive it, if you embrace it, as opposed to shove it and run away somewhere. Well, indirectly they are culpable, the corporates are culpable, just by unthinkingly promoting the idea of faster, better, more, So somehow the idea of faster is associated with better, and faster is also associated with more, and more is associated with better again. Like the more I have, the better I am, the faster I am, the better I am, right? So especially if a senior executive, I'm sure this happens even at very younger levels or junior levels, but if a senior executive turns around to his boss and says, I've lost my mother and I want a month off, he's going to be scoffed at. Or he's going to be asked to take a sabbatical or take retirement, or I don't know, I haven't heard of this kind of thing. So yeah, in that way they are colluding. They are, by refusing acknowledgement of of bereavement as a significant life event, they are adding to the same issue, same problem.